Okay, so let's start with the today's newspaper analysis. Can you all see the newspaper on your screen? Is it visible now?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Fine. Chali. So from 60% in UPA to 95% in NDA, there is a surge in share of opposition leaders in CBI net. So as we all know that in the last few years, there is always a criticism on the government that the agencies like CBI, ED, or Income Tax Department or NIA are being misused by the ruling government to target the opposition political parties leaders. So as per the data, during the UPA government, around 60% opposition leaders were targeted. Now here you can see 95% of the political leaders is targeted in current government. So it's like that, all the governments, respect to like which political party is in the rule, whether it is Congress or whether it is BJP or any government, they have always misused the such type of government agencies against the political opponents. But now there is a surge in the share of the opposition leaders in CBI net. So when UPA was in rule, when Congress was in the rule, around total investigations or total charges were filed. Out of that, 60% were against the opposition leaders. Now here you can see during this BJP rule, 95% of the total charges, total investigation which has been started, that is against the opposition leader. That is what is mentioned here. So political science may be an important trend, and at the same time in GS paper, paper 2, if a question is asked to you that how there is a misuse of the various government agencies against the political parties, that you can give the example of this article. So that is what is mentioned here: misuse of CBI and ED. Don't think Prime Minister is behind it. BJP leaders are. That's what Mamata Banerjee said. So West Bengal Chief Minister Mamata Banerjee said on Monday that she believed Prime Minister Narendra Modi was not behind the alleged misuse of the CBI and ED, but it was the handiwork of some BJP leaders. That's what the Chief Minister of West Bengal had said. So Queen Elizabeth का funeral कल हो गया है. So India's President Draupadi Murmu was at the funeral of the Queen Elizabeth II in London on Monday. Here there is one article related to the pardoning power of the President of India. Here you can see there is meaningful chance to those on death row. That is what is explained here. Supreme Court has referred the case to a 5-judge bench. So just read this article that saying that a uniform approach is needed on granting real and meaningful opportunity to convicts on death row, and noting a clear conflict of opinions between some of its earlier decisions on granting hearing in such cases. The Supreme Court on Monday referred the matter to a 5-judge constitution bench. So 5-judge, whenever any case is referred to a 5-judge constitution bench, means what? In which situation any matter or any case is referred to a higher bench or the constitutional bench. इससे पहले भी मैंने explain किया था, याद है?
To interpret the Constitution of India.
Yes. So whenever there is a need to interpret the Constitution of India, the provisions related to the Constitution of India, such matters or such cases are referred to a constitutional bench. तो जिन भी लोगों को like those people who are convicted and those who have sentenced death penalty, whether there should be remission given to them, whether there should be given some reprise or not, इसको decide करने के लिए the Supreme Court of India, Chief Justice of India, has referred this case or this matter to a 5-judge constitutional bench. So let's see what is the judgment given by this constitutional bench related to the meaningful chance to those who was on death row. मतलब जिन्हें death sentence दिया गया, shall we give them a meaningful one more chance to the life? Yes, Kavya.
Sir, I remember studying it as a three-judge bench in the Hindu newspaper today morning. I think there is, contradictory.
Yeah, so that was 3-judge bench, the 3-judge bench decision, and that is why now it has been referred to 5-judge bench. So whenever any such matters has been referred to the constitutional bench earlier, and it has to be reinterpreted once again, it has to be relooked and reviewed once again, because the Supreme Court can review its own judgment. You know that, Kavya? Whatever the judgment is given by the Supreme Court can review it once again. That is what is called
32 of the
judicial review, right?
Yeah.
So, but whenever suppose if earlier judgment was given by a 3-judge bench, now next time it is referred to larger bench, to 5-judge constitutional bench. If the judgment is given by a 5-judge constitutional bench, then it will be referred to a 7-judge constitutional bench. So yes, you are right. The judgment has been already given by the Supreme Court, but it's not like that the Supreme Court judgment is final. The Supreme Court, time and again, whenever there is a new situation arises, whenever the new, circumstances arises, or whenever new, the new, you can say the thoughts or new thought process arises, then at the time the Supreme Court can review back its own judgment.
Okay, sir.
So that's why the judgment, you are right, the judgment which has been given by a 3-judge constitutional bench is referred to a larger bench of 5 constitutional bench, 5-judge constitutional bench.
Okay, sir. Got it.
Okay. So why it is being referred to it? Because it is mentioned here that it is necessary to have a clarity in the matter to ensure a uniform approach on the question of granting real and meaningful opportunity, as opposed to formal hearing to the accused or convict on the issue of sentence. So there was no uniformity. कुछ लोगों को माफी दी गई है, कुछ लोगों को माफी नहीं दी. Some people have been given reprieve, some people have not been given reprieve, and that is why it was it was sent to the larger constitutional bench. That is what is mentioned here, recalling the court's earlier ruling on the issue of death sentence. So earlier the Supreme Court has already given a ruling and judgment. So what the bench said that the common thread that runs through all these decisions is the express acknowledgement that meaningful, real and effective hearing must be afforded to the accused with the opportunity to abuse material relevant for the question of sentencing. So that is what is explained here. So read the whole article, that why this particular issue has been sent to the Supreme Court judge. As we have seen that in this year's mains exam, there was one question asked on the constitutionalism of environmental laws in India. The first question of GS paper 2. इस साल के मेंस एग्जाम में GS पेपर 2 में पहला क्वेश्चन पूछा गया, discuss the role played by the Supreme Court of India in constitutionalism of environmental laws. All those laws which are there in India related to the environment, the Supreme Court of India has itself, check the constitutional validity of all these laws. That is what is the question. So there is one question in the mains exam every year which is related to such type of case laws. Now let's move to the next page. So in the latest electric vehicle push, charging points on side of 100 PWD roads. So what efforts have been taken by the Indian government in terms of clean energy initiatives? That is a question in this year's mains exam. इस साल के मेंस एग्जाम में मुझे लगता है GS पेपर 3 और GS पेपर 2, I don't remember. But there is one question which has asked that what initiatives are being taken by the government for renewable energy resources in India. So yes, India is pushing hard for electric vehicles, and it is also trying to create a charging infrastructure in India. So charging points on sides of 100 PWB roads, PWB के जो roads हैं वहां पर charging points बनाए गए हैं to push the electric vehicles in India. So just read this whole article to understand that how the government is trying hard for encouraging more people to go for electric vehicles. So here there is one article related to, so there will be an explained live Ukraine war and where it is headed and what next. Ukraine war kya hoga, that is what is explained here. So just read this article. Where does India stand in the current situation? What impact does it have for India's tie with Europe and the US? And how does China look at the war and how does it impact the Indo-Pacific where India has deep interest? So what is the Russia-Ukraine का जो war चल रहा है उसका इंडिया पे क्या impact होगा? That will be discussed by P.P. Venkatesh Verma with Shubhajit Roy. So if you have time, this conversation is on 23rd of September. So get yourself, connected with this live. So you will get some of, the good points. हो सकता है in the mains exam, UPSC might ask a question on this particular issue of Russia-Ukraine war and its impact on India's interest. And what is the stand of China on this war? So because China is also having a lot of the impact in the Indo-Pacific region, so that's what we need to know. So एक article आप कुछ points बना सकते हो. You can make some of the points from this conversation, which will help you in writing the answer in mains exam if at all the question is asked related to the Russia-Ukraine war. Now let's move on to the next page. All remaining are political news. You can read it by yourself. Today's editorial page, Power Game. The plan to shift the centralized market in power sector must take into account concerns of all stakeholders. As we have seen in yesterday's newspaper, that the central government is planning to centralize the market of the energy in India, market of the electricity power in India. So in this year's mains exam, there was a question that how the centralization of the more power, like how the national political parties are in favor of centralization of power, while regional parties are in favor of decentralization of power. Right, Kavya? So what did he say? That the question was that the national political parties are in favor of centralization of the power, while the regional political parties are in favor of decentralization of the power. Regional political parties like DMK, AIDMK, Shiv Sena, or YSR Congress, etc. तो यहाँ पर वही और एक important the issue is going on that the central government is trying to centralize the power market in power sector. So before doing that, before shifting to a centralized market in power sector, the government must take into account concerns of all stakeholders. So the power sector in India is increasingly becoming a site of contestation between the center and state, because we know some of the state governments are providing free electricity to their people like Telangana, Delhi, Punjab, etc. So that is not the problem. Central government is not in favor of giving anything free to the people, while some of the state government are still providing some free, freebies or free electricity, free fertilizer, etc. So that is the reason the power sector is becoming a site of contestation between the center and the state, much of the recent confrontation between the two can be traced to the distribution segment, the weakest link in the power chain. So power is generated by the central government. जो electricity power जो होती है, that electricity power is generated by the central government in India, but it is distributed by the state government, right? Similar, like, you know, the food grain, the rice and wheat is procured by the central government, but it is distributed via PDS from state government. जो food grain होते हैं, rice, wheat, via public distribution system, via ration shop, it is distributed via state government, but उसका procurement कौन करता है? उस central government करता है. Similarly, the electricity is produced by the central government via NTPC or some central government projects, but the distribution of the electricity is via state governments. So the central government has formulated a various schemes to turn around the financial and operational position of the state power distribution company, that is called DISCOMs. And we all seen that in the continuously last 2 to 3 months, the article is coming in the newspaper related to the financial crisis in the DISCOMs. DISCOMs मतलब क्या होते हैं, मुस्तफा? What are DISCOMs?
Electricity generate करते हैं.
No, the DISCOMs are those companies which distribute the electricity. And जो generate करते हैं, these are called as power generating companies. So DISCOMs are distributing companies. That is what is mentioned here. So what is mentioned here, that the government is planning to bring to some scheme which will turn around the financial and operational position of the state power distribution companies. MSEB. MSEB क्या था? MSEB was a Maharashtra State Electricity Board. So it was a state power distribution company. Got it? Now majority of the state power distribution companies have been privatized now. So, but despite these multiple attempts, the financial position of the DISCOMs continues to be precarious. Their mounting losses have increased the fiscal risk at the central government level and the state government as well. As per a recent study by the RBI, a bailout of DISCOMs in 18 large states is likely to impose a burden equivalent to around 2.3% of the GSDP of these states. Yes, Kavya.
Sir, is the central only concerned about this electricity, or all the freebies in general? Like, after
actually, it is concerned about freebies in general. But majority of the Aam Aadmi Party decisions, like in Punjab and in Delhi, and some of the state government, like in Telangana, and some of the states, they are giving free electricity to people. So that is why central government feels that by giving such type of free electricity, it will increase the fiscal burden on the both union government as well as state government. So that is why the central government feels that the power distribution, the marketing of the power distribution should be centralized rather than giving the distribution of the power to the state government. It should be given to the union government. That's what the central government feels, because the DISCOM companies, the power distribution companies, are in loss continuously in the last the 10 years. So despite of a lot of efforts taken by the union government, these power companies are not coming in a good position. That is what is mentioned here. So as per the recent study by the RBI, a bailout of DISCOMs of around 18 large states is likely to impose a burden equivalent to around 2.3% of the GSDP of these states. मतलब state का जो GDP है, उसका 2.3% money will be spent on the power DISCOM companies bailout package. So considering that their weakening finances pose a threat to the entire power chain, the government has of late been increasingly adopting a tough stance. So earlier, the Power System Operation Corporation, the national grid operator, had asked the power exchanges to restrict buying and selling by DISCOMs from 12 states and Jammu and Kashmir on account of their dues to the power generating companies. The power generating companies, these are called as GENCOs. Power generating companies are called GENCOs, while the distribution companies are called as DISCOMs. So power generation companies का जो due है, some of the states are not giving it back to them, and that is why they will stop. Now another side of confrontation has also opened up. So just read this whole article to understand that why the dispute is going on, what contention is going on between union government and state government with respect to power sector. Clear? Now let's go to the next page. Securing basic structure. GS paper 2 in mains exam there is one topic called basic structure. So Fali S. Nariman has written an article. Fali S. Nariman is a famous constitutional lawyer of India. So he mentioned that it constitutes a high point in assertion of Supreme Court's judicial power in the teeth of determined majoritarian regime. मतलब जो majoritarian regime होता है, majority says anything that cannot be changed in the constitution. So that is what is mentioned here. Why it is important to secure the basic structure of the constitution like secularism, republicanism, democracy, independence of judiciary, etc. ये क्यों जरूरी है? That is what is mentioned here. That it is the power given to the Supreme Court in the teeth of the determined majoritarian region. मतलब जो majority लोगों का जो opinion होता है वो minority लोगों पे force करने अगर कोशिश की जाती है, then the Supreme Court can, disqualify, or the Supreme Court can say that particular change made into the constitution is constitutionally invalid. That is what is mentioned here. So the basic theory structure was the response of an anxious and activist court to the experience of the working of the constitution during its first 25 years. It has come to stay more because of political compulsion than acquiescence, because initially for a long period no single political party in India had secured a 2/3 representation in the parliament. So that is what is mentioned here, that why the Supreme Court has invented a theory of basic structure. That is what is explained here. So you can read this article, cut this article and put it into GS paper 2 topic basic structure or basic structure theory of the Indian Constitution. Now let's move to the next page, India and the Eurasian vacuum. As you have seen that 2 days back, the Indian Prime Minister has visited to a SCO summit, and in yesterday's editorial, it is explained that what is the significance of the Eurasian countries in India's interest. So weakened by the conflict in Ukraine, Moscow's influence, that is Russia's influence in its neighborhood, is declining. For Delhi, which long has hitched its start to Russia in the region, this is both crisis and opportunity. तो रशिया का जो इन्फ्लुएंस है यूरेशियन रीजन में या सेंट्रल एशियन रीजन में वो कम होता जा रहा है. ऐसे सिचुएशन में इंडिया के लिए ये बुरी खबर है, because Russia is a good friend of India and Russia has always helped India to get good influence over this region. But at the same time, it is an opportunity because अगर रशिया वीक हो रहा है, रशिया का पावर उस रीजन में वीक हो रहा है, तो इंडिया can take an assertive role. India can take a lead to increase its connectivity in the Central Asian region or in the Eurasian region. That is what is mentioned here. Rethinking universities, higher education institutions need to restructure themselves into educational service providers to lead India's transition into a knowledge economy. So GS paper 2, there is one topic called education in India. So what are the issues and challenges associated with the Indian education system that I will be taking into the Indian GS paper 2 mains class. So it is mentioned that the higher education institutions need to restructure themselves into educational service providers to lead India's transition into a knowledge economy. So India को knowledge economy में अगर transfer करना है या transform करना है, then there is a need to restructure the higher education institution. So what restructure is needed in the higher education system in India, and what problems are there in the higher education system in India is explained here. So cut this article and put it into GS paper 2 topic, education in India. Got it, Mustafa? Chale, now let's go to the next page, time for global digital. So India's G20 presidency, India is the president of G20. Now India is also having a chair in one more global forum. Anyone remember which global forum India is having the chair now? 2 दिन पहले ही न्यूज़पेपर में आया था।
CO सर, ये CO शंघाई कोऑपरेशन ऑर्गेनाइजेशन।
Yes, Shanghai Cooperation Organization की जो body है, that body is also this year India has got the chairmanship of that. Similarly, G20 presidency has also been given to India now. So India's G20 presidency is a chance to address the challenges of regulating the big technological companies. So there is a need for the global digital governance, that is what is mentioned here. तो G20 की जो इंडिया को जो presidency मिला है, that India can discuss about that how to control and how to regulate the big technological companies, that is what is mentioned here. So just read this whole article and try to understand that why there is need to have a global digital governance. Now let's move on to the next page. President has given approval to directors of 8 IITs. So directors have been appointed in 8 Indian Information Technology Institutes in India. The Supreme Court for Dalit Muslims and Christians. Story so far. As we have seen yesterday, the headline was that the Supreme Court wants quota for the Dalit Muslims and the Christians. So what is the story so far? So what is the position or what is the stand of the government and Supreme Court on whether the reservation should be given for Dalit Muslims and Dalit Christians or not? That is what is explained here. The CBI's uneasy history. As I told you that CBI has been misused by the various government time and again. So that is mentioned here that Supreme Court has called it as a cage to parrot. The CGIs have expressed doubts over its credibility and said it's no longer is trusted. Attempts to secure its independence have been opposed or overturned by the successive government. So what are the issues associated with the way the CBI is functioning? That is what is explained today. So just read this article that why the CBI has always been in doubt. The controversy over the NAC system of assessing the higher education. तो NAC एक body होती है which assess the higher educational institute. तो जिस तरीके से वो assessment करता है उसको लेकर कुछ controversy चल रही है. So what is that? What is NAC? What is the how the accreditation process carried out and what is the controversies about? Just read this article. हो सकता है मेंस एग्जाम क्वेश्चन कैन बी आस्क्ड. Now today's economic page, IBBI amends norms, maximum value of companies and market linked solution. What is IBBI? Anyone knows? Insolvency and Bankruptcy Board of India. As India has already, made the code related to the insolvency and bankruptcy code, उसका एक board बनाएगा. That is what is called IBBI. It has amended some of its norms. So maximum value of the company and market link solution will be 1 year. So what is the insolvency and bankruptcy code that I will be discussing with you in the basics of Indian economic class, which we are having in the evening now. Yes, Mustafa.
सर आई थिंक सर इन 2020 और 21 में सर एक बैंक बोर्ड ऑफ इंडिया बोल के एक इसके ऊपर प्रीलिम में क्वेश्चन आया था सर. उसके चेयरमैन कौन?
That is the bank जो होता है बैंक बोर्ड ब्यूरो होता है. That is related to the appointment of chairman of the public sector banks.
Yes sir, let me complete.
Bank board bureau, that is called BBB.
हाँ सर.
Now it is IBBI मतलब जो those companies who are not able to repay back their loan, उनके लिए एक insolvency and bankruptcy code बनाया गया है. Those people who take the loan, but if they are not able to give back their loan in time, then such companies can go and declare themselves as insolvent and they can declare themselves as a bankrupt, so that all the assets of the companies can be recovered back by the bank and the loan can be restructured. तो उसका एक अलग से बोर्ड बनाया गया है and that board is called IBBI. Got it, Mustafa?
Yes sir. सर प्रीलिम में हो सकता है क्वेश्चन आएगा सर IBBI बोर्ड से रिलेटेड सर. उसके चेयरमैन कौन होता है?
Yes, पूछा जा सकता.
वही बोलना चाहता था.
Good. Now ठीक है, डेटा प्रोटेक्शन बिल को लेकर एक आर्टिकल है efficient data usage by industry and cyber safety, thrust areas in latest draft law. So what are the thrust areas in the latest data protection draft bill? That there should be efficient data usage by the industry, then there should be cyber safety. So the law is hanging on fire. The data protection law has been hanging fire for some time now, having previously faced criticism over the aspects of local storage of the data and data sharing among the different government agencies. So data localization and sharing the data with various government agencies के लिए बहुत issues हैं, उसको लेकर अभी ये बिल पास नहीं हुआ है. Fine. So this is all there in the today's newspaper. We'll stop it here now. We'll continue in the evening the government budget topic, which I've already started yesterday. So all of you please join at the evening at 8:30 to continue with the basics of Indian economy class. So have a good day to all of you. See you in the evening.
Sure, sir. Thank you. At what time the class is, sir, again?
8:30 Kapya.
Okay, sir. I'll be there. Thank you.
Thank you.